Hey guys, I Watch and Talk, your official channel of the man who likes to watch sports, analyze, and talk about them. Today, I wanted to start off my TikTok career by talking about the NFC North and where I think all the teams will end up by the end of the year. First off, we have the Lions. The Lions will go 11-6. This is because while I think they're a good and up-and-coming team, they're slightly overhyped, and a lot of the young players that they have still need to fully prove themselves and actually develop into the NFL players that they need or think that people are going to be before they can seriously take off and actually pursue a Super Bowl. They do have Jared Goff, a really good receiving core with a young Amon St. Brown. Once Jambo comes back, they got Marvin Jones back, which is going to be a good locker room presence. But overall, while I think they're a pretty good team, I think they're going to go about 11-6. They do have David and Gibbs in the backfield, which is definitely going to help them out. But, I mean, just the young struggles that we're going to see with the players, whether it is just stupid mistakes or immature things like what Jambo did in the offseason, it's going to be a good season for them. I see them as a divisional round exit, and that's about where I see the Lions going. Next up, we have the Packers. I think the Packers are going to be about a 6-11 to 7-10 win team. I think this because Jordan Love, well, I think when he comes into the league as a third-year quarterback, he didn't play the first 2 years much. When Rodgers got hurt, he looked okay. He did back up Aaron Rodgers for 2 years, so that's a lot of good mentorship, a lot of good pride and things that you can see in him. I think he'll be a decent quarterback, maybe like top 20 to 25. Serviceable enough for his first year, but nothing crazy. And when you look at his receiving room, besides Christian Watson, it's not much. I mean, you have Jaden Reed coming out of Michigan State, who could be decent. Romeo Dobbs maybe has a breakout year. A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones are definitely good running backs that you want to see, but overall, it's not really that great of an offense. I mean, it's going to be decent. It'll win them some games, but nothing crazy. And then for the defense, you have like Jair Alexander, Kenny Clark, Adrian Amos, players that are kind of getting older, kind of in their prime or coming out of their prime. And then you know, a lot of just middle-aged players that are either getting into their prime and are just decent or they aren't that good. So I'm not really sure where the defense is going to be. I just don't see that defense being able to carry an offense that might struggle with Jordan Love at the helm. But you never know. That's just kind of where I see the Packers ending. Next up, we have the Vikings, who are going to be 10-7 to 11-6. I think this because remove Jay Jettis from the lineup, and they're just a decent team. You have Kirk Cousins, who's top 13 to top 18. You have Adam Thielen, who's way past his prime, and KJ Osborne, who are decent receivers. Obviously, you do have Justin Jefferson there, who is the best receiver in the league, and he can definitely win you games on his own. But you're also going to need players like Hawkinson to step on the offense side, Alexander Madison and Nukeke Anu. They're running backs now that Dalvin Cook is gone. It's a decent offense, and then their defense is aging. You have Harrison Smith, you have Byron Murphy Jr. They lost to Darian Smith in the offseason, so it's just a decent aging defense that I don't see being able to bail out the team like they did last year in all the one-score games where they were able to hold them down or there was a last-second touchdown or something crazy happened. They won like 9 one-score games last season, and I just don't see them replicating that. I think they might win like 3 or 4. But besides that, they're either going to need to win by a few touchdowns or they're just going to lose the game. They do not have that offensive production, so that's why they go 10-7. Last and maybe least, we have the Chicago Bears. For the Bears, Justin Fields will be everything if they want any kind of chance at having a decent season. He'll have Chase Claypool, a wide receiver who I actually think is slightly underrated and can still come back and be a pretty decent receiver in the league. They also have DJ Moore, a great wide receiver, top 10, top 15 when he's really playing up to it, who could definitely bail him out with his amazing hands. They have Khalil Herbert, who's definitely a decent running back that can get the job done. Cole Kmet also showed some flashes of maybe being a good tight end, so their offense is definitely looking good enough to where he could 100% have a breakout season and become the quarterback that everyone thought he was going to be when he was taken super high in the draft 3 years ago now. On defense, you have players like Elijah Hick, Tremaine Edmonds, a few aging cornerbacks. I mean, definitely, it's a decent defense with a new head coach as well. I mean, he has all the tools in place, in my opinion, to definitely make this jump and get this team like to a 9-8 record and maybe make the playoffs, but it all depends on him. It's a good team, an unknown quarterback who knows where his potential really lies, and that's about where I see this team is I'm going to predict him officially at 6-11 because I don't know if Justin Fields can make that jump, and I don't want to give it to him before I see it. So that's all I have to say on the Bears. Those are my thoughts on the NFC North teams. If you have any thoughts or comments that you want to leave below, please, I am happy to respond and talk with you guys. You guys have a great day. Peace out. Hey guys, I Watch and Talk, your official channel of the man who watches sports, analyzes and loves them, and then talks about them so you guys don't have to. Today we're going to be talking about the NFC East, starting off with the Giants. The Giants are a pretty interesting team. Obviously, they had a great season. Not a great season, but a lot better season. Brian Daboll came in as a first-year head coach, did great things for them. Daniel Jones actually looked like he could be a starter in the league. And it's very interesting to see where they'll go this year. I think Brian Daboll was a great coach. and I think they'll have some team success, but I don't see them getting much better than last year. This is because Danny Dimes had a great season, and he got a great payday, but, I mean, it was one good season. Daniel Jones, it's not like he really proved himself. He just had a good season. I mean, players do that all the time, have good seasons, then regress or kind of stay the same, and I just don't see that being a real game changer. Obviously, he has Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard, which are still good receivers, but they're a little on the older side, along with getting players in the offseason like Cole Beasley, Jamison Crowder, and then they do have some super young guys that are developing fast that they got in the draft. Obviously, they got Darren Waller in the offseason, and he's a great tight end, don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's a pretty decent offense. Saquon got signed for a great year, which is amazing, but with the turmoil in the org and just from not paying him and the holdout, I just don't know how well he's going to be, especially if he's worried about that next contract. He might want to try and save his body because, I mean, running backs don't last long in the league, and he's been hurt for almost every year now, so you just don't know how well he's going to want to play. I mean, their defense is pretty young as well. You have Kayvon Thibodeau, who has to keep progressing. Deonte Banks, who can develop into a really good superstar. I'm actually really high on him. You also have players who have been there, like Monty Oriwere, who came from the Lions, Adoree Jackson, a good secondary. I mean, it's definitely not a bad defense and a bad offense, but they didn't get that much better. I see them going 9-8 to 10-7. I don't see them getting much better. Maybe make the playoffs again in a wild card spot. I don't really know, but I mean, I just don't think Daniel Jones is that guy. I don't think they have the receiving star power to carry him, and the defense still has some developing to do. So that's why I see the Giants going about 9-8 this season. We have the Eagles, and honestly, I see this team going about 13-4, 14-3, because I don't see this team regressing for any reason. Hurts is only in his 4th season now, and he's going to be in his prime, or he's just going to keep getting better. You have Devonta Smith, a really nice young wide receiver, A.J. Brown, who aren't getting worse anytime soon. They traded for DeAndre Swift in the offseason, which could pay off really nicely. He was a great player on the Lions, but he also was very injury-prone, so I'm a little worried about that. They also got Rashad Penny, who's another running back that's pretty good, but hurt 90% of the time. I mean, maybe if both those players are hurt all year, Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell can hold it together, but Boston Scott's more of a return guy. Kenneth Gainwell was the 3rd string last year, so I'm not too sure how that's going to go, but I think that Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, and Hurts, along with Devonta Smith as well, can definitely carry that offense, and they're not going to need a lot of running game, because, I mean, Jalen Hurts is a great dual threat, so as long as it can be decent, that's all they need to be. Along with that, they have a great defense, man. I mean, the pickup on Jalen Carter was amazing. You have Fletcher Cox on a did long as well. They have big play Darius Slay, who's definitely still a good corner. Terrell Edmonds is a servable safety. They have Kayvon Wallace, Greedy Williams, who are pretty young. Kayvon Wallace is obviously a little older than Greedy Williams, but they can still be decent pieces on the team. I mean, really, it's the same team as last year. A lot of the same offensive pieces, a lot of the same defensive pieces, a few upgrades. Their coach is the same. I just don't see why they would regress. I think they're going to be a great team again. Maybe another Super Bowl contender as long as no one gets hurt, and I definitely see this team going pretty far. Not much to talk about. They stayed the same. They're going to be good. Next up, we have the Cowboys, who I think are probably going to go about 11-6. You have Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and Tony Pollard, who is definitely one of the better offensive trios in the league. Maybe like top 5 offensive trios in the league for a starting back, quarterback, and a wide receiver. Dak is a good quarterback, probably about the top 10 quarterback in the league, top 12, somewhere around there. CeeDee Lamb's a top 7 receiver in the league. Tony Pollard he's played really good behind Zeke, and now that he's finally getting that starting spot, I'm not sure if it's going to go better, worse, since he's going to get a lot more carries, but I think he's going to be pretty good this year. I think they're going to be one of the better trios in the league in terms of just raw stats, raw numbers. And then Michael Gallup obviously does back up CeeDee Lamb. So number 1 and number 2 wide receiver for Dak this year is not bad. With Tony Pollard sitting back there, you have your tight end, Jake Ferguson. If he is the starter, they might sign someone else, who knows. But he's young. He can keep developing. He might be pretty decent. It's definitely, there's a lot of time there for them to be a good offense. But, I mean, they choked a lot last season. We've had plenty of struggles. I know that they did fire their head coach. I'm blanking on his name. McCarthy. But yeah, I mean, they're going to be good this year. I just see Dak with a lot of the same choke problems as last year. I mean, he hasn't improved it in, 5 years now? I just don't see that changing now for no reason. Their defense is still pretty good. You have Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, who are definitely decent safeties. You have a top 5 corner in Trayvon Diggs. Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence off the edges are going to be deadly edge rushers. Micah Parsons, honestly, could be a top 3 rusher in the league, top 2, behind, like, Joey Bosa. And, man, I don't even know. Like, there's very few guys you're going to put above Micah if he just keeps being this absolute monster that he is. DeMarcus Lawrence is older, but definitely no slouch on that edge. So, I think the 6 losses will honestly just come to losing themselves. Their stupid mistakes, bad picks from Dak, blown coverages, just how the Cowboys are, man. They're always kind of like that. They just do stupid things and it loses them games. So that's why I see them going 11-6. So for our last but not least team, obviously we have the Commanders, who are in a very interesting spot right now. I think they could go anywhere from 6-11 to 9-8. It kind of just depends on how this whole offseason goes with the owner needing to sell and how the GM and the head coach are feeling about that whole situation. Obviously, that's Ron Rivera, who's been pretty good. He's been a pretty experienced long-term head coach now. He's been in the league for a while. And, I mean, it really just depends on what kind of direction they want to go in. They have a decent offense, but players like, obviously, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin are there. You have Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. Like, it's not a bad set of skilled players, but that quarterback, it's either going to be Jacoby Brissett or Sam Howell, and Jacoby Brissett can definitely get the job done. Don't get me wrong. He's a good quarterback. He played great. I really do think he's a good quarterback. He can get the job done, get you to a 9-8, 8-9 kind of record. But if you go Sam Howell, who didn't look bad in the offseason, or not in the offseason, like training camp and that last week that he played because, you know, they didn't really have a lot to play for. They were out of the playoffs. He looked good, but he was playing against secondary players because, I mean, that last week didn't have a lot going for them. So, I mean, he looked okay. I see him being a decent top, like, 18 to 20 starter in his first year. He needs to develop, and I just kind of see that offense either being decent with Jacoby Brissett or very sputtery and just kind of a lot of long shot plays with Sam Howell. So I don't know how well they're going to be. And then for the defensive side of things, you have a great D-line with Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, Chase Young. That is a beautiful D-line if you ask me, but I mean, it really just depends on their health. Chase Young needs to stay healthy for more than 2 games this season. He actually needs to be on the field. For their DBs, it's Kendall Fuller, who's been in the league for a while. He's a decent DB, don't get me wrong. Benjamin St-Juste, who looks like he's going to be their second string or third string cornerback. Been in the league about 3 years now. This is his 3rd year now. Last year, he started 12 games. No interceptions, but he had decent stats. I didn't really watch a lot of him, I'm going to be honest with you. So if he starts all 16 before he got injured, that could be interesting to see. So honestly, they're a younger defense with a lot to prove. And really that's all I have to say about the NFC East and the NFC North. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe, look out for the next one. Go check out the TikTok, go check out the Twitter, or just all I watch and talk. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. You guys all have a great day. Peace out.